love you guys. Emeralds, let me hear you. All right. Diamonds, where are you? Blue diamonds, make some noise. Oh my word, blue diamonds, that was awful. Blue diamonds, where are you? That's much better. Rubies always win. They always have more energy than you guys. I don't know why that is. Now, this section, oh my gosh, Team Elites. Now hold on. Rubies, where are you at? Team Elites, where are you at? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if logic serves me, since the Rubies shout like Team Elites, they'll become Team Elites. Emeralds and diamonds, figure it out. All right. We wanted to bring you all together to talk some of the nuts and bolts of the business. Some exciting advancements. You're going to hear about amazing things in this session. But really, you represent the leadership of our market, so we're so happy that you're all here with us. Now, we're going to hear from a number of individuals this afternoon. We're going to hear from the President of the region, Scott Schwartz. We're going to hear from Vice President of Marketing and Operations, Greg Darlington. I want you to pay close attention to the information you're going to get. Nobody else in the company will be receiving this information, just you folks in this room, which is why we, of course, check your name badges at the door. So thank you again for being here. Let's get rolling with our first speaker, President of the region, Scott Schwartz.
I hear it was a little bit like pandemonium out there as people were trying to get their 21 clues. How many of you got your 21? Good stuff in there, right? I mean, I was sitting there getting these emails throughout the holidays and I'm going, this is great, everybody needs to see this. Now, because we're going to Orlando next week, okay, don't put this on a fax machine or scan it and send it to somebody. Okay? Let's let them, just don't worry, I'm going to mix it up. So if you think you're going to give somebody a little bit of a nudge forward, I'll mix it up. Was it a good morning? Yeah, wasn't that Emmanuel an amazing person? We actually, we worked with John McClellan to get him row 2 tickets to the Lakers tonight. So he's already a superstar. Well, I want to just kind of lay out the objectives of what we're going to talk about today. Rubies and above, and as Nick said, we want to share with you some details that really need to be shared to your downlines through you. You know, our business is driven by you, and so we want you to internalize the things we're talking about, figure out the best way to communicate it to your downline and make it motivational. Now you know that Rubies and above is the energy of the business. I mean, that's why we did the Ruby trip. That's why we've now changed it to the Success trip. How many are going on the Success trip? Yeah, it's going to be fun. I promise you that every Success trip we do will be someplace warm and sunny. I think collectively, we'd all agree that our sole focus together is to help everybody on your team successfully progress. Wouldn't you agree? That's all. I mean, the great thing about the Nu Skin compensation plan is when somebody on your team wins, you win. I mean, it's so completely antithetical to corporate America. This is the beauty of Nu Skin's compensation plan. It's all about everybody winning, because when everybody wins, we all win. And then the last objective is to make sure that we make 2012 our best year ever. Everybody on board? Okay, so we've shared this information with you before, and you know, the business today, as a result of a lot of the analysis that Dan Chard and his team and our team have been doing, has become very predictable. I mean, it is very predictable. And so what I want to share with you is the growth formula, the things that we look at on a daily basis that hopefully you're looking at as you build your businesses. This is the formula. I mean, it's so stunningly simple. It took us 27 years to figure it out. But what this is basically your volume is the sum of AMV, which is average monthly volume by a distributor in your downline purchased, okay, times the number of active distributors you have. I mean, it seems very simple, but it took us 27 years to get that formula. But we can look into the future, and, you know, when I used the 275 million, and you remember how many asset builders do we want in 2012? 115,000. So we today have 96,000 Nu Skin asset builders in the United States and Canada. 96,000 active Nu Skin asset builders. Now, in order to hit 275, because the formula is very predictable, we know that it has to go to 115. Okay, so we need to collectively work to figure out how can we do that. Now, the other day I was sitting in my office at my house doing email, and it was early in the morning, and I saw this commercial, and I said, this is the message. This is what I wanted to share with you. So let me just run this little commercial that I saw this morning. It's here someplace.
Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Parker, on your retirement. We'll be happy to cash out your retirement account today. Just a few of the details. Great. Now let me go get your money. There's a little bit more. 5, 10, 20. That's it. And I didn't spend it all in one place.
Powerful. I mean, I saw that and I said, you know, that's what most of the world is dealing with today. I shared on a conference call last week that 43%, and this doesn't apply to our frugal and saving Canadian partners who are in the room, but 43% of Americans today have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. Now, when you understand that, you really understand the value of what you're creating here with Nu Skin. And you understand that Nu Skin's vision of being the world's leading direct sales company by generating more income, more commissions for you than any other company, really makes a difference when you think about people who are just like that couple. And we know them. I mean, we know who these people are. You know these people. These are your neighbors. These are your business associates. I mean, I read an article this morning on CNBC that they believe that corporations in America that have provided a pension today will have to take 10% of their profits for the next 10 years to cover what they're going to lose this year alone. You know, this is reality, and so what we offer is an opportunity to change people's financial equation. Now, one of the things that I think we haven't thought a lot about, but you know, we don't ever stop thinking. I mean, our wheels are constantly turning, and we're looking at inflation. And it's real interesting because I remember, how many remember the first time you went to McDonald's? I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old when the first Golden Arches was built in my city. And it was great, you know, the 29-cent hamburger, I think it was in fact 19 cents at the time. And And then all of a sudden, you know, we start seeing hamburgers $1.49. And inflation between that time and today is just something that has come into our lives, and we oftentimes don't perceive it. It's just, inflation is something that just happens, and we don't see it. But we're thinking about it. So look at the price of a hamburger. 1984 Big Mac, $1.50. Now, I know none of you eat Big Macs any longer because you're all thinking about living as long as you possibly can. But let's look at what a Big Mac looks like today. $4.07. Amazing. Now the challenge is that's just happened a little bit every year, just happens a little bit, and pretty soon it's there, and then when you think about it, all of a sudden, you understand the impact of inflation. Let's take a look at a car. Honda Accord in 1984. $9,015. Now, you couldn't even get a 100,000-mile used Honda Accord today for that price. But let's look at what a Honda Accord costs today. $24,473. So the purpose behind these slides is really to help you understand that inflation is real. It's something we deal with. We may not think about it, but it's something we deal with. So I sent Nick Johnson, you know, our Ryan Seacrest of Nu Skin, and his cohort, Kyle, out to talk to people to see if they understood inflation. So let's just take a look at what they found in the raging metropolis of Provo, Utah.
So we're here on the campus of Brigham Young University, one of the fine academic institutions here in the United States of America. So certainly here, people understand just how devastating inflation could be on one's purchasing power.
How much would you think they cost? What's your best guess?
I've bought marshmallows so long. $3.49.
$2.99 is what I paid for these marshmallows this morning. How much a marshmallow is going to cost in 20 years?
I would say $6.50.
5% inflation rate. These marshmallows are going to cost you $7.93.
How much would you pay for this can of Campbell soup today?
I'd say like $2.
Factoring in inflation, what do you think this Campbell soup will cost 20 years from now?
I may know what the average inflation rate is. So we said $1.50.
Okay, 4%. That's really good. $3.98. Could you tell me what today's price of a bottle of Coca-Cola is?
$1.79.
What's this same bottle of Coke going to cost you 20 years from now? The actual price of a bottle of Coke 20 years from now is $5.01.
They're not dating, they're just friends. We've clarified that. How much would you say these Doritos cost me this morning? $4.29 on the bag. Drew's he's a smarty. So flash forward 20 years, Drew and Casey, how much are you paying for these chips?
$9.
Okay, the actual price in 20 years, 5% inflation rate, $8.73.
What do you think the price of this energy drink is today? Not a bad guess. It's actually $2.20. 20 years from now, a product like this is going to cost you $5.81. If you continue to drink this in 20 years, that $5, $6 can of soda won't even matter. Do you know why? Worse, you'll be dead.
We've set up an inflation awareness booth here on campus.
I don't even think that it affects them.
Well, all I hear ringing in my head is the sound of their purchasing power eroding. What would you say the price of this bread was? $3.12. So you're right. You're right on. What do you think you're paying for that same bread that was $3.12?
of helping people understand that inflation is real. So let's take a look into the future and say, what's the impact? So if you made $30,000 in commissions in 1984, in order to have that same purchasing power, meaning you could buy exactly what you could buy with $30,000 in 1984, in order to do that today, you'd have to have $62,000. I mean, it really comes home when you start thinking about it. Now we can look into the future and say, okay, let's say we have $60,000 today. Let's look into the future 20 years from now. If nothing changes, okay, so let's say nothing changes, you have $61,945 20 years from now. Your purchasing power is half of what it was. So in order to have the same purchasing power as $61,000, you have to have $112,000 in income to have the exact same purchasing power that you have today at 60. Now, the question is anybody thinking about it? I mean, honestly, I haven't thought about inflation. I mean, I read the newspapers, I see it. Those of you that track some of our global economies in Latin America know that a country like Argentina, for example, today will have a double-digit inflation rate, and they've been having a double-digit inflation rate for the last 6 years. The United States today, I mean, it's interesting, if you look at the CPI index, they'll say, well, you know, inflation really doesn't exist. How many went to the grocery store lately? I mean, the other day, my kids wanted some chocolate cereal. It was like $5 a box. You know, I remember buying those for 99 cents. I mean, inflation is real. And so when we look into the future, we want to make sure we understand the impact. So I had Nick and Kyle go back out, talk to a few more people to see if they could predict what the future was going to look like. So let's watch what they had to find.
How important would it be to you, Josh, to find an employer that adjusts for that inflation?
That'd be waiting for it. That'd be important. Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Awesome. That'd be awesome, folks. Adjusting for inflation.
Go until we miss. Okay, we're gonna go again. So you assume that as cost of living increases, your income also increases?
Yes, in most cases.
In most cases. What if it doesn't? Is what you're telling me that your future poor?
What?
Is your future self poor? Do you know that this is actually not allowed on campus?
I didn't know that.
It's BYU folks. Look it up.
I'll be making more money probably, right?
Well, that's the question, right? That's the question. Wouldn't it be nice to have an employer that adjusts for that inflation rate? Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
It just doesn't go as far anymore. Like, if you used to be able to get like gas for like 50 cents, like my parents are young.
Important to the dirt.
Are you hoping to have an employer that is paying you and adjusting for that inflation so that you can maybe buy an $8.73 bag of chips?
Yeah, you'd hope so.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Enjoy not dating each other.
All right.
Hey, Michael, what are you going to do? Beat inflation. You don't know? Move to Australia. You know what happens in Australia? Inflation. Here's how you do it. You find an employer who's going to pay you on an adjusted basis based on inflation. It's important. And I think we can all conclude that find an employer who's going to match that inflation, right? And adjust for that inflation so that you have the spending power to buy a loaf of bread for you. Inflation's outrunning what we make. What if somewhere out there in the world there were a company that just automatically adjusted your wages to account for inflation on a monthly basis? That'd be interesting to see how that works. You know, guess what, Kevin? You and I, if we were to work for that company 20 years from now, we'd be enjoying lemon meringue pie. And Kevin, why are we doing it today? For inflation, understand. Yep, understand inflation. One. Kevin just took a pie in the face for inflation awareness. For inflation awareness.
You know, it's funny listening to those young people and thinking that's our next generation of educated, you know, population. Yeah, I'm going to move to Australia to avoid inflation. So we're excited. I mean, some of you, hopefully you all had a chance to read the email that I sent out earlier this month about our next innovation called the Commissions Maximizer. So we've actually spent 3 years. In fact, I remember we were talking yesterday, the first time we even talked about this concept with our team elites was 3 years ago in the Sleeping Beauty room upstairs. And here we are today, excited to announce that Commission Maximizer as a component of the Nu Skin Wealth Maximizer compensation plan is in place. So here's what it means. So had Nu Skin simply indexed your commissions to inflation since 1984, what would that mean to you today? It would mean that today, instead of saying we've paid out $8 billion in cumulative commissions, what it would mean is Nu Skin would say we've paid out $13 billion in cumulative commissions. It would mean that today, instead of sales of $1.7 billion, we'd be saying our sales are $2.2 billion. Now the way is, the magic is in figuring out how to make that work. Because, you know, I was reading an email after I sent my message, and somebody said, well, why not just raise price and volume? And I said, well, that would be great if people didn't buy to the minimums, right? And then you start saying, how do we help people understand what we're talking about here? So let's just take a look what we're doing. We announced the Commission Maximizer. It works harmoniously with the Wealth Maximizer. It is not a replacement, okay? So you will never see Commission Maximizer written all over things. It's part of the compensation plan. It's the way we calculate things. It simplifies your global earnings. Now here's an interesting thing. Those of you that have global groups, how many have groups all over the world? So with the Commission Maximizer, what happens is the exchange rate multiplier goes away. All we do is take all your global currency, convert it to US dollars, calculate your commissions, and pay you. Simple? It preserves the value of your lifetime earnings. So a business today will have the same purchasing power 20 years from now, 40 years from now, because it ensures that your business, the business that you build today, keeps pace with inflation. So here's a few important terms we want to share with you. In the email I said there's a couple of new terms, but these are the two important ones. One is CSV. Now this month you'll begin seeing this terminology used on the genealogies and in the store. CSV is what we call commissionable sales value. That's what you will be paid on. And then PSV, which we're all very familiar with, is called personal sales volume. This is what you will qualify on. Now today, those two figures are equal. So you pay $100 for a product, you get 100 PV. Over time, those two will begin to separate. Now here's where the innovation comes into play. And this is where we are different than anybody else. Because what happens in our competitors is they say, well, that's fine, you just pay more for that product, but we're going to pay you your commissions on BV. You've heard that, the term bonus volume, which is used in many companies in our industry. And that's the way companies keep pace with inflation, but it doesn't protect distributors. That just means they can keep raising their prices, you get lower volume, and you just have to keep buying lots more product. So what we said is, let's make this a win-win. Let's make sure that as prices go up, as inflation occurs, because it's going to, let's just make sure that you're protected. So where Nu Skin's innovation occurs is we pay you your commissions on the commissionable sales volume of your products. So here's how it'll work. Each product has PSV and CSV. Every single product. A product package will have PSV and CSV. As CSV increases over time, based on inflation, I mean, we're not going to just say, hey, let's raise the CSV. I mean, we pay attention to what's going on in terms of inflation costs and what's going on in the economy where you're dealing with the business. And so as CSV increases over time, PSV will remain constant. You will qualify for your commissions on PSV and group sales volume like you do today, but you'll be paid on group commissionable sales value. So let's just take a look. Here's an example. We picked LifePak. LifePak Nano, as a matter of fact. So you look at where LifePak is today. So over time, LifePak, let's just assume a 2% inflation rate, which is about average. Let's just assume that that's the figure we're using. Over time, LifePak is going to go up in price. Now, in today's example, what I'm talking about is PSV would remain the same today. CSV goes up. Okay? And your group commissionable sales value has increased as well because you've paid more for that product. You've gotten the same PV you got today, but you've paid more for that product. Now where you win is we calculate your commissions on group commissionable sales value. So you can see on the bottom line there that your executive bonus over time, it's not going to be something, it's just going to be something that you're going to see gradually over time, making sure that Nu Skin's keeping your earnings equal with inflation. And you can see that if you bought 19 boxes of LifePak Nano in 2006, to meet that same qualification in 2014, you're going to buy 17 boxes of LifePak Nano. However, you'll also notice that your commissions in 2006 on that was $182.97, but in 2014, it was $195.84. Same number of units, all it's doing is just making sure that your earnings keep pace with inflation. So the Commission Maximizer is an innovation. It's something we've been working a long time on. I mean, this has been in the incubator for a long time. Because we would not implement something unless it fulfilled our mission to ensure that you are going to be paid more than any other distributors any place else in the world. And it's also important that you understand that the purpose behind this is so that you understand that we're not talking about a today business. We're talking about a lifetime business. We're talking about something that you're going to will to your children or the people you care for. And you want to make sure 20 years from now that your check will have the same purchasing power that it does today. And the only way we can do that is to innovate with the Commission Maximizer. We also want to make sure that you understand that the Commission Maximizer is something that is designed exclusively for you. This is a win-win program for you, to make sure that you and your teams and your families are blessed as a result of your hard work today, and decades from now they continue to enjoy the blessings of the business that you brought into their lives. It preserves the value of your lifetime earnings. So let me just share you with the timeline, and then I'm going to turn the time back over to Nick. So here's the timeline. We sent out a message to all distributors in January, so everybody knows that it's coming. We're having this meeting here to talk with you. In February, you will begin to see side-by-side calculations in your Maxi statement. So on your statements, you will see side-by-side calculations. Now, why do we do that? Because we want you to know that you're going to win in this. That this is not something that the company is using to change the equation or to rewrite the books. This is about you. And so we're going to show you side-by-side calculations so that you can see how Commissions Maximizer coupled with the Wealth Maximizer is going to be a win for you. We'll have a lot of materials. I just finished filming a video on the compensation plan. We were going to show you a little segment here, but we'll hold off and we'll put that up next week for you. But it's a new training program on how the compensation plan works. And then in April is when the Commission Maximizer will actually go into full effect. Now here's an important point. You notice that the packages that we're selling out in the Experience Center today, right? They're $360 for 350 PV. On April 1st, those packages will be 360 CSV and 350 PV. So that means automatically on those kits, you will get a 2% increase in your commissions as a result of those kits. So I asked Mort Ehrlich. Now Mort's our resident economist. I don't know what college he went to, but it was one that's on the East Coast, and he's a lot smarter than I am. But we actually flew Mort Ehrlich in to Provo to spend some time with us so he could understand what we were doing. And I just wanted to have Mort come up for a few minutes and share with you his perspective as a distributor about the Commission Maximizer.
You know, when Paul and I first came into this business, a lot of people said, you have to be out of your mind. Great corporate career, had all the visible signs of corporate success, except we had no lifestyle. We never saw each other. And this is why we came into this business. Paula found it first, and she asked me to do a due diligence with her. Being a professional economist, it made some sense to do that.
So what school did you go to? Just curious.
Brown.
I knew it was one of those big East ones.
Anyway, so we come out via Provo, and at the time it was a private company, and I asked them a lot of questions, and Blake and Steve were very accessible. Even he was accessible. And they really showed me everything I asked for. And I said, Paula, this is quite unusual. It's a new company, but their principles and values are actually credible, and it's a very, very conservative company. Almost un-American. It has no debt. So I said, is this real? And anyway, we thought it was. Flew back home to Miami, and I had a few questions I forgot to ask her. Came back out, met with Blake, and he was much more accessible at the time, it was a small company, and answered all the questions to my satisfaction. And I said, Blake, you know, some of us have careers before Nu Skin, and we can't afford to be embarrassed. And he looked me right in the eye and said, Mort, I guarantee to you, you will never be embarrassed. And here we are 20-some years later, and not for a second, not for a day, have we ever been embarrassed. Well, here we have an innovative, very innovative compensation plan. And it's not the easiest thing to understand. So as some say, just do the business and it works out, it works this way. It works out very well, and it does. But it is complicated. And there are many aspects to it. Well, when the Wealth Maximizer was initiated, that was absolutely brilliant. It really brought to the surface the best part of maximizing our income based upon dollar sales. Go one way or the other way. But then it occurred to some people in the company that, wait a minute, what about inflation? Now think about it. What are we building? Long-term leveraged residual income. In other words, there's a long expression for legacy income. How do you protect It's a legacy. Well, conventionally, we talk about 401ks and IRAs, conventionally, but they've all been pretty much wiped out. And Nu Skin had a very interesting idea. I'm not sure whose idea it was, I know it wasn't mine. And they said, take a look at this. And I flew out to Utah and spent quite a bit of time with the people who are really doing the work and don't get the credit. That staff is absolutely incredible. I couldn't believe some of those guys. And they answered every single question. There were a few left over, they answered that as well. So I will tell you this, what Nu Skin has done, at least in my professional opinion, is something that simply doesn't exist. Where in the world do you get your income ratcheted up based upon inflation? One place, and that's if you're old enough to draw Social Security. Most of you are not. That has an inflation kicker. Well, we are now probably the only company that I know of that has essentially allowed us to get an income increase as a function of price increase. Prices go up, our income goes up, the real value of our legacy stays more or less constant. You want to keep working, and the volume and the base just keeps growing on a real basis. I will tell you that President Cotton Souls, this thing was worked upside down, one side and the other, and it is an absolute, foolproof means of protecting our income against inflation. Now, there's no doubt about it. It plugs what I think is the last, it's not a loophole in the system, because the system doesn't have a loophole. It's an enhancement. Don't view this as a compensation plan change. It is not a compensation plan change. It is a compensation plan enhancement. What that means is that it makes it better. And it does make it better. Can you imagine going out and talking to prospects and telling them, well, I can explain our compensation plan to you, but we'll hold that. But I'll tell you one thing. It protects us against inflation almost 100%. Can you relate to that? I remember when Pepsi-Cola would advertise Pepsi-Cola for 5 cents.
That dates you.
It does, I agree. And we talk about the good old days. Well, you know something? There is no such thing as the good old days. These are the good old days. And what Nu Skin has done with this enhancement is guaranteed. So,
thank you,
I hope that helps.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we know you may have a few questions, and we've got a lot of answers. So if you have questions, what we'd like you to do is either send us an email or call us. Most of you have my phone number. 801-310-6984 is my cell phone, my email. You have Nick's, you have Greg's, you have Matt's. But we want you to be completely understanding of what we're talking about here, because it is sole focus is your lifetime earnings. It's your lifetime. And that's the beauty of what Nu Skin is offering in this partnership, is that we're thinking about this business decades from now, centuries from now. Isn't that a wonderful thing? So with that, I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to turn the time back to Nick. Thank you.